Hello, and welcome everyone. Welcome to our Path of a Magdalena program. And through this program, we explore a different quality of Mary Magdalena each month. And so we do this through an interview with different Magdalena practitioners on this quality that we send out via email. We have different journaling and inquiry questions throughout the month, and also engagement through social media. And one of my favorite parts of the Path of a Magdalena program is this live that we're doing today. So each month we also explore quality through a live event. And today we are looking at the quality of grace. And it's something about that word, even when I say it and I can really feel it, something in my body changes as I can move into the energy of grace. Today I have with me Lisa Guinan from Ireland, who I think, as you all know, is the master of all of the frequencies because she has been on this journey now for, 18 months, mastering the qualities. And I also have Mary with us from New York in the United States. And I'm joining y'all today from Hawaii. And so, yeah, this is a special quality. And I hope that you'll all agree as you dive into it this month and explore the quality of grace with us, because I think through grace, so much is possible. So I like to start by just generally discussing, what is grace? Like what is this thing we call grace?
Yeah, I can kick it off there, Cara. I love Jayandra's definition that he says it's an embodiment of source because, I really feel that when I tune into grace. It's that whole thing, that presence, I would say, that I feel moving down, through what we know as the Antakarana, this like tube above the head. For me, I experience it like a waterfall of, I'd say, consciousness or soothing kind of consciousness that pours down from that higher aspect of me, the divinity within me. And inside of it, everything just comes into a state of coherence and ease and flow. And sometimes I can, receive, there could be something in my daily life that I'm struggling with or that I'm trying to work out mentally. And I might go and sit in my meditation and open up and feeling this flow of grace moving through me, this embodiment of source moving through me. And suddenly I get these ideas, inspiration. It's like I receive this energetic information, which is so, brings me so much into harmony inside myself and guides me on my way forward. It's such a beautiful quality. It's like one of those. Another thing Jayandra said was an expression of love. Like I so relate to that as well. It's like this pouring down of grace. And then how I emit that out, how I express that in the world around me and to others around me. It's like that expression of love. It's like the love in action and movement. It's so beautiful.
Mm. Yes. And I would love, maybe we could share an example of grace, like really allowing people to know, okay, this is how grace experiences, and this is how I experience grace in my life, whether this is a personal example or something you've seen in someone else related to grace.
I can share, Cara.
Great.
So Lisa, that was such a beautiful description of grace. And I truly believe when we live in this, when we're in this state of divinity, that's where love is, it's where love is, and this is where grace flows. And for me, I feel that I embody grace the most when I'm doing one of my save opportunities. So I've been volunteering at a local food pantry for many years. And over the years, I've seen such an increase in the number of individuals that need to use the pantry to feed their families. And despite the fast pace of filling these orders and interacting with those in need, for me, when I'm in that state of grace, there's this effortless flow that occurs in my heart. And no matter how busy we are, I don't feel any resistance or moments of feeling overwhelmed. There's that. This is when I feel that grace, and I'm in that unwavering devotion to the role that I'm filling there at the food pantry. And this being in that state allows me to lovingly extend this energy to those in need as well. And there's so much love and expansion and such a joyous pleasure and having me feel that and sharing that with those that I'm helping. And when I'm doing this seva, I feel like the Mary Magdalena prayer comes to mind. It's when we ask her to grant us the grace to follow in her ways. And she was such a powerful example of this quality of grace for us all.
Yes, I love that. I also think one of the times when I am most embodied in this quality of grace is when I am serving, when I am in a real place of being in my heart and things just work out, even though sometimes they feel like, how is it possible? But they do. And one other time where I really experienced grace. So I think it's easy for me to think of grace when I'm feeling good, like, okay, things are going well. I'm like kind of riding the wave. But I also experience grace in very difficult times. So if I think of some of the most difficult moments or times in my life, if I resist, they remain hard and they are actually worse. But if I can be in this energy, in this space of grace, and just be with what is, no matter how painful it is, there's an acceptance, there's a melting that I experience within myself. So I'm just thinking of recently, I was in a very in a fight with someone, and it was really hard for me. And I didn't want to be in it. I didn't want to experiencing it. I kind of accepted that it was and moved into this experience of grace. It was still sad, but the resistance wasn't there. And then I could move through it. So that's also another time that I have experienced grace is through difficult moments. And I feel and grace has really moved me through them.
Yeah, I so agree what you're saying, Cara. It's reminding me of the time when my mum got seriously ill, just at the very start of COVID, and it was a really, really difficult time, and she was seriously, seriously ill, and we're so worried about going into hospitals, and all of this was going on. And, I remember just surrendering because I knew that my mum, because of the effect it was having on her brain, her mental functioning wasn't working so well, but she was like really in her heart. And I knew she was very reactive to how we were. So if I was in fear, then my mom started thinking there was something wrong. Whereas if I was steady and in love, my mom was like in a really, really good place. And I knew I had to just surrender. And so much grace came through as a result of that. I could feel the flow coming through and everything just moved effortlessly. And, even for my mom, when she went into the hospital, she got the best of care and everything just worked out so well. And I feel like the whole family actually was brought into this movement of grace that was so, so beneficial for all of us. It brought us all so close and so grateful, even
Yeah.
though the situation was so difficult.
Yeah, it's like grace allows things to move. It's like it allows for movement, not a stuckness. And then when the allowing comes in, the grace comes in, and the situation, the energy can change. Yeah. And for either of you, what is it like in your body when you experience that grace? Like there is a movement to it. What is it to be embodying grace?
I think for me, when I embody grace, is my daily actions just flow effortlessly. And instead of that rigidity and that resistance, whether, like you explained, Lisa, if you're going through a difficult time period or if it's a time of joy, if you stay in that flow of grace, there's just this effortless movement throughout your daily activities. And I allow. So when you're allowing whatever the day brings, I know that I'm loved and supported and guided on this journey, right? And so that a state of allowing with an open heart brings me into that deeper embodiment of grace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd add to that everything is very simple when I'm in a state of grace. It's like often I observe grace in nature, where I just watch plants just, they're not growing and blooming to prove anything or to show anything. It's just purely for the sake of, they're just always stretching towards the light, and then they reach this time when the flower is ready to bloom, and it's just this like really pure expression, and it's so simple. And that's the way I feel. And so there's a simplicity, and there's not looking for anything. It's just really being in that moment and allowing yourself to be moved within that moment. Like a child as well. I think children really, that childlike state, that kind of innocence and wonder and flow.
Lisa, that was so perfect. You even use nature as an example, because that makes me even think of the title of Saima's book, Petals of Grace. You think about this delicate, beautiful flower and all of these petals being these qualities that we're talking about today, and just that beauty in that flower and the petals of grace. And it's just so beautiful that she chose that name for her book. But yeah, nature is definitely a place where we can see that graceful flow.
As you were sharing, both of you, so I was thinking of a time where I was serving as Saima's assistant. And for those of you who might be watching who don't know who Saima is an enlightened master who powers the Magdalena program and also embodies all of these qualities of Mary Magdalena. A true example for us in Magdalena healing in terms of that aspect. And Saima is so much more to so many of us too. So I was serving as Ma's assistant, and there was a big yagya, and it was in the state of Florida, and there was a lot going on with this yagya. I mean, there were like ordinances we had to get, and I mean, it was wild. And so I was like, how are we going to get this done? I was kind of chaotic. And so if I feel into my body in that moment, like my heart was beating so fast, like I can feel it as I move into it. Like I can feel it beating against my chest, and my mind is kind of like, it's like so tight, trying to figure out thing I have to. We're actually walking in, and this was on the beach in Florida. So I'm standing here, I'm awaiting Ma's arrival, and Ma's walking in, and I'm like running up, I don't want to miss anything, don't want to screw anything up. And Ma goes like this, like slow. It was what my feeling was like, whoa, slow down. And it was grace. It was that energy of grace. And so then when I shifted energy to align with that space of grace, I noticed how I walk is different. Like my brain is not, it's expanded. It's not like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? There's no resisting it. It's just going with the flow and walking with that flow. So for me, that's what the embodiment feels like. It's almost like walking or being as the ocean. Like I know Lisa was referencing nature before, but it's the it's the it's just moving with things that they are. But I'll always remember this, like, what for me, it was like, whoa, Kara, like, slow down. Like, we've got some stuff to do here. And that energy just wasn't working for it.
That's so lovely, Cara. And it's like, can really hear when you're saying it, that part of how the grace melts the resistance. And, isn't it the
Exactly.
resistance that causes us the suffering and the anxiety and everything like that? And it's such a gift that grace can just pour in and shift all of that and take us to new ways of being that are joyful and flowing.
Yeah, I know this is like so many of the qualities we talk about, but it's like moving from your head into your heart, or moving like into your body. And I think there's so much like uh, I don't want to keep saying grace, but there's so much available when that shift happens, and grace is one of those qualities. So I think Mary Magdalena was quite an example of grace for the world, for us. I wonder if any of our if Lisa or Mary, if you want to speak of Mary Magdalena's grace and what was possible through the grace of Mary Magdalena.
I can speak on that. For me, Mary Magdalena was the epitome of the word grace. She carried herself and embodied grace despite the magnitude and hardships of the role she had to do to help her beloved Master Jesus figuratively carry his cross. And there was no resistance. She walked physically and energetically every step of the way with her beloved on his journey to help him fulfill the role that he came here to play. And she did this with unwavering grace, fueled by her deep, deep love for Jesus. And so I feel that in her grace, she was able to expand more fully into her state of enlightenment even. And she was such an example to all of us, that embodiment of love through her immense example of grace in action. She, when I think of the word grace, I picture Mary Magdalena, because she really, truly was the purest example of that word. And in my views is Mary Magdalena and grace. They go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Such a lovely description. And what keeps coming to me as I'm listening to you, Mary, is that Mary Magdalena's devotion. She was so devoted, and in that giving of herself, that she created this empty vessel that allowed the grace to just pour into her so that she could be that embodiment of love. Yeah.
And I think for me, Mary Magdalena's grace was so powerful because of the impact. Like what was possible for Mary, what was possible for the whole like divine scene that was happening in that time, how Mary's grace carried her after Jesus, after the death of Jesus, and how it's carried so much forward for women. And in terms of Mary Magdalena's mission on the planet, I think it's grace that's that movement that brings us through, especially in difficult times. And that's what I saw in Mary Magdalena, is just moving through so much heaviness, moving through, or what we would see as heaviness, moving through very dark times with such grace. And the impact can still, we're still seeing it today. So that's why I think grace is, it's like what's possible for us, what's possible for you through really moving through life with grace, through tapping into grace, through being grace in different moments in your life. So I offer throughout this month, this quality is here for us. So really begin to tap into grace. And so Lisa and Mary, if you were thinking, like, if somebody's wondering, how can I really cultivate grace? what would you suggest that they practice or try out through this month and then for the rest of their lives too?
Well, I'd say it's pretty evident that we really need to be present in our bodies to feel grace. It really is an experience inside. And the heart needs to be open. I don't believe that it can flow unless the heart is open. The heart is like the container. So for me, I just come into that state of meditation with my heart open, and I open myself up to that presence inside me, divinity, God, however I relate to it. And I just allow it to pour in. There's an opening in my heart, there's a giving within my heart and an openness. So I suppose it's it's a meditation really that allows me to really allow that quality to flow.
Mary, anything you want to add?
I was going to actually say the same, Lisa. For me, to cultivate more grace in my life, it really is through my sadhana practice, is sitting in stillness, allowing that divinity to flow through me with an open heart. And the more I'm connected to that divinity, I feel the more grace can expand within my physical being.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I would add is when you're feeling the opposite of grace, when you're in an experience of contraction, or when you feel it even in your physicality resisting, like I was sharing in that one story, I always feel it in my brain for me because my go-to is mental. So it's like, okay. So when you experience that resistance, just take 3 breaths, 3 conscious breaths, and move your intention to grace and see what that does for you. You be your own judge, see if it works. So I see we are at time. For anybody watching online, drop us some comments. Like, what are you going to do to cultivate grace this month? Or what do you wish to practice to cultivate grace during this month? If you've liked our content here, please give us a thumbs up, like this video, follow us on our different social media platforms. It really helps our channel, and it helps with our mission and what we're up to here at Magdalena Healing. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you next month.